We were supposed to be dating. We were still dating until this plumber guy came along. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone.
Maxwell continued on with things that had the judge telling him to zip it until finally...
But I was wrong. I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and ain't no way I can repay this. It's between me and the Lord now. I just want to let y'all know that I have repented with every bone in my body, and I can never take this back down here on this earth. And I just want to let y'all know that the Lord gave me a dream that she's with the Lord, and that's the only thing that kept me from killing myself.
The first time you spoke.
When I see your wife, I'm gonna kill her. The second time he called, he reiterated that he was gonna hurt her. What did I just say? I said, first time I said, he called back, he said he'd kill her. He called back 5 minutes later, told me he wasn't going to kill her. But that's what he said. He said twice he was going to kill her.
On the evening of June 18, 2017, in a quiet house on the block of Avon Avenue in Detroit, a mother's life was cut short in the most horrific way imaginable. Latrese Morris-Dorsey, a 42-year-old woman, was gunned down in her own home, shot not once, not twice, but 10 times. Her 4-year-old daughter stood frozen, witnessing the unimaginable, while her 14-year-old son was just steps away in another room. The man behind the trigger? Earl Maxwell, her boyfriend of 4 years, who later claimed it was all a tragic accident. But was it? How does someone accidentally fire 10 shots? And why did Latrice's estranged husband receive chilling phone calls from Maxwell weeks before, threatening her life? This is Dark Truth Files, and today we're unraveling the heartbreaking and infuriating case of Latrese Morris-Dorsey's murder, a case that exposes raw human emotions, betrayal, and questions that still haunt those left behind. What would you do if you got a call from someone threatening your loved one? Would you believe them if they later said they didn't mean it? Where are you watching from? Drop your location and your first thoughts on this case in the comments below. Let's get this conversation started.
Latrese Morris-Dorsey had dated Earl Maxwell for about 4 years until right before she was murdered. Testimony today at Maxwell's preliminary hearing indicated they'd broken up and she was dating someone else, and clearly Maxwell was upset. Her estranged husband testified about a few phone calls with Maxwell.
What did he say the first time you spoke?
When I see your wife, I'm gonna kill her. The second time he called, he reiterated that he was gonna hurt her.
That was 2 weeks before the murder on Avon. Maxwell's defense attorney, though, challenged Dorsey's testimony, saying it conflicted with his statement to police.
Well, no, sir. What did I just say? I said, first time I said, he called back, he said he'd kill her. He called back 5 minutes later, told me he wasn't going to kill her. But that's what he said. He said twice he was going to kill her.
Okay, but that's not what's in your statement, is it?
Yeah, that's because, let me tell you why. That's because my wife was dead, and I'm going through my mind crazy, okay? And you guys question me. I know. Go ahead, do your thing.
Let's do this.
But the prosecutor pointed to another statement, Maxwell's.
In his statement, claims that he accidentally shot Ms. Dorsey 10 times. He specifically indicates that he accidentally shot her in the back of the head, in her hands, throughout her body.
Latrese Morris-Dorsey was more than a name and a headline. She was a 42-year-old woman whose laugh could fill a room, whose determination lifted her through life's toughest moments, and whose love for her children defined her every day. Born and raised in Detroit, Latrice grew up in a city that shaped her resilience. The Motor City, with its grit and its heart, was in her blood. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was a dreamer, a fighter, a mother who poured everything into giving her kids a better life than she'd had. Latrice was the kind of person who left an impression. Friends described her as a firecracker, quick-witted, with a smile that could disarm anyone. She had this habit of humming old Motown songs while cooking, her spatula doubling as a microphone during impromptu kitchen performances. Her 14-year-old son, Justin, would roll his eyes but secretly loved it when she'd pull him into a dance around the living room. Her 4-year-old daughter, Jada, thought her mom was a superstar, giggling every time Latrice belted out a high note. One neighbor recalled a summer barbecue on Avon Avenue where Latrice organized a water balloon fight for kids, laughing louder than anyone as she got soaked. That was Latrice, always finding joy, even in the small moments. But life wasn't always easy for her. Latrice worked long hours as a medical assistant, a job she took pride in because it let her care for others. She'd come home exhausted, her scrubs wrinkled, but she'd still sit with Jaden to help with his homework or read Amara a bedtime story. Money was tight, and the house on Avon Avenue, though modest, was her sanctuary. She'd painted the living room a bright yellow because, as she told a friend, it feels like sunshine, even on bad days. That optimism was her armor. Latrice's relationships, though, were complicated. She'd been separated from her husband, Paul Dorsey, for years. Their marriage had unraveled, but they stayed in touch for their kids. Paul described Latrice as fiercely independent, someone who didn't let anyone define her. After their separation, she started dating Earl Maxwell in 2013. At first, friends said, he seemed charming, attentive, a good match for Latrice's vibrant energy. But over time, cracks appeared. Latrice confided in a co-worker that Earl could be possessive, his mood shifting when she spent time with others. She was starting to pull away, exploring new connections, maybe even dating someone else. That independence, that spark, made her shine, but it also put her in someone's crosshairs. What was it about Latrice that made her so unforgettable to those who knew her? Maybe it was her strength, her ability to find light in the darkest moments. Or maybe it was her love for her kids, so fierce to define her. As we move into the events of that tragic night, I can't stop thinking about Jada and Justin, left without their mom's warmth. What's one thing about Latrice's story that's hitting you the hardest right now? Drop it in the comments. Let's honor her by keeping her memory alive. June 18th, 2017, started like any other summer day on Avon Avenue in Detroit. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the modest houses, their lawns dotted with kids' bikes and fading garden gnomes. But by nightfall, the quiet street would be shattered by gunfire, and a family would be torn apart forever. Let's walk to that fateful day, hour by hour, piecing together the moments that led to Latrese Morris-Dorsey's final breath. Moments her 4-year-old daughter, Jada, and 14-year-old son, Justin, would never forget. At 8 a.m., Latrice was up early, her routine as steady as ever. A neighbor, Mrs. Carter, later told investigators she saw Latrice on her porch, sipping coffee from a chipped blue mug, scrolling through her phone. She waved, her smile bright, unaware of the storm brewing. Latrice had the day off from her medical assistant job, planning to spend it with her kids. By 10 a.m., she was at the local grocery store, picking up ingredients for spaghetti, Jaden's favorite. The cashier recalled Latrice joking about how her son could eat his weight in pasta. She seemed happy, carefree, maybe even hopeful. By 3 p.m., the house on Avon Avenue was alive with activity. Jaden was in his room, headphones on, playing video games, while Amara colored at the kitchen table. A friend, Tanya, stopped by briefly, later telling police that Latrice mentioned Earl Maxwell was coming over later. Her tone was neutral, but Tanya sensed tension. Latrice didn't elaborate, only saying, he's been acting off. Was this a red flag nobody caught? What would you have done if your friend hinted at trouble like that? At 6:30 p.m., Earl arrived. Neighbors didn't notice anything unusual. No raised voices, no signs of a fight. The street was calm, the air warm with the hum of cicadas. Inside, Latrice was cooking dinner, the smell of garlic and tomato sauce filling the house. Jada was still at the table, her crayon scattered, while Jaden stayed in his room, oblivious to the gathering storm. Then at 7:45 p.m., everything changed. According to police reports, gunshots rang out, sharp, rapid, relentless. 10 shots in total, fired in quick succession. A neighbor across the street, Mr. Jenkins, was on his porch and froze at the sound. He told investigators he saw Earl's car parked out front, a black sedan glinting under the streetlight. By 7:50 p.m., Jenkins called 911, his voice shaking as he reported shots fired and screaming from the house. Jada, just 4 years old, was in the room when her mother was shot, her tiny frame witnessing the unimaginable. Justin, in his bedroom, heard the chaos and ran toward the sound, only to find his mother on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. At 8:02 p.m., first responders arrived. Paramedics rushed into the house, finding Latrice unresponsive in the living room, her yellow walls now stained with tragedy. They pronounced her dead at the scene. Earl was still there, according to police, his hands trembling, claiming it was an accident. "I didn't mean to," he reportedly said, his voice hollow. But 10 shots? How does that happen by mistake? Officers noted his demeanor, calm, almost attached, as they handcuffed him. What strikes me is how quickly a normal day turned into a nightmare. Did Latrice sense danger when Earl walked in? Could anyone have stopped this? As we moved, one question lingers. What pushed Earl Maxwell to pull that trigger? The living room on Avon Avenue was now a crime scene, marked by yellow tape and the echo of 10 gunshots. Latrese Morris-Dorsey was gone, leaving behind 2 grieving children and a community in shock. But who was responsible, and why? By June 19, 2017, Detroit police had one man in custody, Earl Maxwell, Latrice's boyfriend of 4 years. His claim? It was an accident. 10 bullets fired in front of a 4-year-old, and he called a mistake. Let's dive into, because something about this case doesn't add up. Who had the strongest motive to end Latrice's life? Let's break it down. Earl Maxwell, 37 at the time, was the obvious suspect. According to court documents, he was at the scene when police arrived, his gun still warm. Maxwell admitted to firing the shots, but insisted it wasn't intentional. "It just happened," he told officers, his voice flat, according to the arrest report. But investigators weren't buying it. 10 shots, fired from a 9mm handgun, with bullets piercing Latrice's chest, arms, and abdomen, suggested rage, not recklessness. Maxwell's history painted a complex picture, a mechanic with no prior violent convictions. He was known for his charm, but also his temper. A co-worker told police Earl had been off for weeks, complaining about Latrice's distance. Was he jealous, possessive, or something darker? The motive seemed to crystallize around Latrice's personal life. Court testimony revealed she may have been seeing someone else, a detail that reportedly infuriated Maxwell. A friend of Latrice, Keisha, testified that Latrice confided about meeting a new man, someone she met through work. She was excited, like she was ready to move on, Keisha said. Maxwell, according to Keisha, had confronted Latrice about a days before, his voice low but threatening. "You think you can just walk away?" This wasn't a one-off. 2 weeks earlier, Maxwell had called Latrice's estranged husband, Paul Dorsey, at least 20 times. Paul testified that Maxwell's first call was chilling. "When I see your wife, I'm going to kill her." He called again, repeating the threat, only to backtrack later, saying he was just upset. Paul warned Latrice, but she brushed it off, saying Earl was all talk. Did she underestimate him? Or did Maxwell's emotions boil over that night? But let's consider other possibilities. Could Paul Dorsey, Latrice's estranged husband, have been involved? Paul was cooperative with police, providing a solid alibi. He was at his apartment across town, confirmed by security footage. Still, their separation hadn't been amicable. Paul admitted to arguments over co-parenting Justin and Jada, and he was struggling financially. Could he have had a hidden grudge? Investigators found no evidence linking him to the scene. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no motive strong enough to override his alibi. Still, some online discussions pointed fingers, noting Paul's access to Latrice's life. What do you think? Does Paul's story hold up? Then there's the mystery of the other man. Police never identified this person. If he existed, Keisha's testimony was vague, and no phone records or messages confirmed a new relationship. Was this a red herring, planted by Maxwell to justify his actions? Or was there someone else in Latrice's life? Someone who slipped through the cracks? Detectives chased this lead but hit a dead end. No name, no contact, just whispers of a possibility. The evidence against Maxwell was damning. Ballistics matched the gun to the bullets recovered from the scene. His fingerprints were on the weapon, and gunpowder residue coated his hands. Yet, his story had inconsistencies. He claimed the gun went off during an argument, but the pattern of shots, 10 in rapid succession, suggested intent. A forensic expert testified that the bullet angles indicated Latrice was standing, then fell, with Maxwell continuing to fire. Why keep shooting if it was an accident? And why no attempt to help her? My gut tells me Maxwell's story is unraveling. Something about those 10 shots feels personal, deliberate. Online, people were divided. Some argued Maxwell snapped under jealousy, while others wondered if Latrice's new connection pushed him over the edge. A few even speculated about a setup, though no evidence supported this. Who do you think had the strongest motive? Was it Maxwell's pride, a lover's betrayal, or something we're missing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This case is about to take a turn you won't see coming. Let's peel back the layers on Earl Maxwell, because the more we learn, the less his accident story hold water. Court records paint a picture of a man whose charm masked a growing obsession. Maxwell wasn't just a mechanic. He was a meticulous planner, someone who kept his tools organized to a fault, according to his boss, Marcus Reed. Marcus testified that Earl's mood shifted in early June 2017, after Latrice started pulling away. He'd check his phone constantly, muttering about her not texting back. Marcus said, one day, he slammed a wrench down so hard it dented the workbench. This wasn't just irritation. It was a man on edge, his control slipping. Psychologically, this fits a pattern of possessive behavior. Dr. Emily Carson, a forensic psychologist who reviewed the case of prosecution, noted that Maxwell's actions, repeated calls to Paul, confrontations with Latrice, pointed to an escalating need for dominance. When Latrice began exploring a new relationship, it wasn't just a betrayal in Maxwell's eyes. It was a challenge to his identity. Does that sound like someone who'd accidentally fired 10 shots? According to phone records submitted in court, Maxwell's 20-plus calls spanned 3 days, from June 1st to June 3rd, 2017. The first call, at 2:17 p.m. on June 1st, lasted 4 minutes. Paul testified that Maxwell was ranting, accusing Latrice of playing games. The second call, an hour later, was shorter but more direct. I'm going to kill her. By the third call, Maxwell's tone softened, saying he was just venting. Paul's decision to warn Latrice was critical, but her response, calling Earl all talk, raises questions. Was she in denial about the danger? Or had Maxwell's back-and-forth behavior conditioned her to dismiss his threats? I can't help but wonder, if someone called you 20 times, threatening someone you cared about, would you take it seriously? How many warnings do you need before you act? The other man, Angle, deserves more scrutiny. Keisha's testimony about Latrice's new romantic interest was compelling but frustratingly vague. She described a conversation on June 10th, where Latrice mentioned a co-worker who'd asked her out for coffee. She was giddy like a teenager, Keisha said he made her feel seen. But when police pressed for details, Keisha couldn't provide a name or description. Latrice's phone records showed no unusual contacts, only texts to friends and family. Detectives interviewed her co-workers at the medical clinic, but no one admitted to a romantic connection. One nurse, Sarah, recalled Latrice joking about a cute doctor during a break, but it seemed casual, not serious. Was this the spark that set Maxwell off? Or was it a convenient excuse he used to justify his rage? Online discussions exploded with theories. Some believed the other man was real, others thought Maxwell fabricated to shift blame. What's your take? Could a rumor have been enough to push him over the edge? Paul Dorsey's role needs more exploration, even if he was cleared. Court documents reveal their separation in 2013 was contentious, with disputes over child support and custody. Paul was behind on payments, owing Latrice $3,200 by June 2017 for financial records. He admitted to police that he felt frustrated by Latrice's demands, but he insisted he'd never hurt her. His alibi was ironclad. Security footage from his apartment complex showed him entering at 6 p.m. on June 18th and not leaving until the next morning. Still, some online sleuths weren't convinced. Posts on community forums speculated that Paul could have hired someone, pointing to his financial stress. But no evidence, no bank transactions, no witnesses supported this. Still, it's worth asking, why did Maxwell call Paul so obsessively? Was Paul a convenient outlet for Earl's anger, or was there more to their dynamic? The physical evidence against Maxwell was overwhelming, but let's break it down further. The 9mm handgun, registered to Maxwell, had a 15-round magazine with 10 bullets fired. The crime scene report noted bullets lodged in the living room wall, floor, and furniture, suggesting a chaotic spray rather than a single misfire. The forensic expert, Dr. Alan Rivera, testified that the bullet trajectory showed Latrice was initially upright, then fell after the first 3 shots, with 7 more hitting her as she lay on the ground. This wasn't a panicked accident. It was sustained, deliberate. Maxwell's claim that the gun went off during an argument didn't explain why he didn't stop after the first shot, and why no call for help. The 911 call came from a neighbor, not Maxwell. My stomach churns thinking about Jada in that room, watching it all. What kind of person keeps shooting with a child present? Police reports also highlighted Maxwell's behavior post-shooting. Officers described him as eerily calm, sitting on the couch when they arrived, hands in his lap. He didn't cry, didn't ask about Latrice, just repeated, "It was an accident." This detachment intrigued Dr. Carson, who suggested it could indicate dissociation or a calculated attempt to appear remorseful. Contrast this with his earlier threats. Hot, angry, unfiltered. Was he truly in control, or had he snapped entirely? Online, some argued his calmness proved premeditation, while others saw it as shock. What do you think his demeanor says about his state of mind? Let's talk about the red herrings. The other man theory wasn't the only distraction. Early in the investigation, a neighbor reported seeing a suspicious gray van near Avon Avenue that morning. Police tracked it down. It belonged to a delivery driver, unrelated to the case. Another lead came from a co-worker who claimed Latrice had a stalker at work, but this turned out to be a disgruntled patient with no connection to the crime. These dead ends frustrated detectives, but fueled online speculation. Some forums suggested conspiracy, with Maxwell as a patsy for a larger plot. No evidence supported this, but it shows how quickly rumors can spiral. Have you ever followed a case where a small detail sent you down a rabbit hole? Share it in the comments. I'm curious. The prosecution built a strong case, but Maxwell's defense tried to muddy the waters. They argued he was intoxicated, citing a toxicology report showing alcohol in his system, 0.06 BAC, below the legal limit. They claimed this impaired his judgment, making the shooting unintentional. But the prosecution countered with Maxwell's own words. Those threatening calls to Paul showed intent weeks before. The defense also suggested Latrice provoked him, pointing to texts where she told Maxwell she needed space. This felt like a desperate reach, blaming the victim for her own murder. It's infuriating to think about. How do you feel about defenses that try to shift blame like this? Community reactions added another layer. In Detroit, Latrice's death sparked outrage, with vigils outside her home drawing dozens. Flyers from a local advocacy group called for stronger domestic violence protections, citing Maxwell's threats as a warning sign ignored. Online, posts reflected a split. Some saw Maxwell as a monster driven by jealousy. Others debated whether Latrice's choices escalated tensions. I hate that narrative. It feels like it puts her on trial. Latrice deserved to live her life, not justify it. What's your gut telling you about the community's response? Did it honor her, or did it miss the mark? As we wrap this section, one piece of evidence haunts me. A voicemail Maxwell left Paul on June 2nd. played in court. His voice was low, deliberate. She's not yours anymore, but she's not anybody else's either. That possessiveness, that control, it's chilling. Was this the mindset that led to 10 bullets? Or is there still a piece of this puzzle we're missing? The investigation into Latrese Morris-Dorsey's murder seemed straightforward at first. Earl Maxwell was caught at the scene, gun in hand, with a flimsy claim of an accidental shooting. But as detectives dug deeper, new revelations turned this case upside down, raising questions that still linger. From unexpected evidence to a community grappling with grief, the weeks following June 18, 2017, brought twists that left even seasoned investigators stunned. What really happened in that house on Avon Avenue? And why did the truth feel just out of reach? One of the biggest shocks came during Maxwell's preliminary hearing in July 2017. Prosecutors introduced a piece of evidence no one saw coming. A text message from Latrice's phone, sent to a friend just hours before her death. At 4:15 p.m. on June 18th, Latrice texted her co-worker, Monique, saying, "Earl's coming over tonight. I'm nervous. He's been weird lately." This was a bombshell. Until now, friends had described Latrice as brushing off Earl's behavior, but this message showed she sensed danger. Why didn't she act on it? Did she think she could handle him? Monique testified that she urged Latrice to cancel, but Latrice replied, "It's fine. I'll talk him down." That decision haunts me. If you got a text like that from a friend, what would you do? Would you push harder to intervene? The text wasn't the only curveball. Investigators uncovered a security camera from a neighbor's house, 2 doors down, that captured audio of the shooting. The grainy footage didn't show the crime, but at 7:45 p.m., 10 distinct gunshots rang out, followed by a child's scream, likely Jada's. But here's the kicker. Between shots 7 and 8, there was a 3-second pause. Forensic analysts testified this suggested Maxwell stopped, then deliberately fired again. This obliterated his accident defense. The pause felt chillingly intentional, like a moment of choice. Online discussions erupted, with some calling it proof of premeditation. Others argued it could have been shock or hesitation. What do you make of that pause? Drop your theories in the comments. I'm dying to hear them. Media coverage amplified the case's intensity. Local Detroit outlets like WDIV and the Detroit News ran headlines about the tragic domestic violence slaying, focusing on Latrice's role as a devoted mother. But some reports stirred controversy, speculating about her alleged new boyfriend without evidence, echoing the unconfirmed other man theory. This frustrated Latrice's family, who told reporters it felt like she was being blamed for her own death. A vigil on June 25th drew over 100 people, with signs reading "Justice for Latrice" and "End the Violence." Community activist Lena Carter spoke at the event, saying, "This isn't just about one woman. It's about a system that fails to protect women from men who think they own them." Online, posts reflected similar anger, with hashtags like #JusticeForLatrice trending locally. But some comments were cruel, questioning why Latrice didn't leave Maxwell sooner. It's infuriating to see her judged like that. What's your reaction to how the media handled this? Another twist came from Maxwell's own words. In a jailhouse interview with a local reporter on July 10th, he doubled down on his accident claim, but added a new detail. He said Latrice had grabbed a gun during an argument about her cheating. This was the first time he'd mentioned a struggle. Police found no evidence to support this. No defensive wounds on Latrice, no fingerprints on the gun's trigger except Maxwell's. The prosecution called it a desperate lie, but it shifted public perception. Some online forums debated whether Latrice's actions could have escalated the situation, while others saw it as Maxwell grasping at straws. My gut screams he was trying to rewrite the narrative. What do you think? Does his new story change anything? The investigation also revealed a miswarning sign. A week before the murder, on June 11th, Latrice had called a domestic violence hotline, according to records obtained by police. She didn't file a formal report, but asked about options for dealing with a controlling partner. The call lasted 12 minutes, with Latrice describing Earl's mood swings and constant calls. The counselor advised her to create a safety plan, but Latrice said she wasn't ready to leave. This broke my heart. She was reaching out, but maybe she didn't realize how much danger she was in. Have you ever known someone who hesitated to leave a toxic situation? Why do you think it's so hard to walk away? As the case headed to trial, one final twist emerged: Maxwell's plea. In May 2018, just before the trial began, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and a felony firearms charge. This avoided a full trial, sparing Jada and Justin from testifying. But it raised questions. Why plead guilty if he claimed it was an accident? Prosecutors said it was a strategic move. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Maxwell likely took the plea to avoid a first-degree murder conviction, which could have meant life without parole. At the sentencing on June 7, 2018, he was given 25 to 50 years. Latrice's sister, Tamika, spoke in court. "He took everything from us. My sister deserved better." The judge agreed, calling the crime heinous, and noting the trauma inflicted on Latrice's children. But for some, the sentence felt too light. What do you think? Does 25 to 50 years feel like justice? The twists in this case keep me up at night. That text, that pause in the gunfire, that hotline call. It's like Latrice was surrounded by warning signs, but no one could connect the dots in time. As we head toward the current status of this case, one question burns. Could anything have saved her? It's September 15th, 2025, and the house on Avon Avenue stands quiet. Its yellow walls a silent witness to a tragedy that shook Detroit back in 2017. Latrese Morris-Dorsey's laughter no longer fills the rooms, and her children, Justin and Jada, face a future without their mother's warmth. Earl Maxwell, the man who took her life, has been behind bars since his sentencing on June 7th, 2018, serving 25 to 50 years for second-degree murder and a firearms charge. But does that sentence close the book on this case? Or are there still questions that demand answers? Today, we'll look at where this case stands, honor Latrice's memory, and ask, what does justice really mean for a woman whose life was stolen too soon? Maxwell's sentencing on June 7th, 2018 was a pivotal moment, but it didn't bring the closure many hoped for. In court, he sat stone-faced as the judge delivered the 25 to 50-year term, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Latrice's sister, Tamika, gave a heart-wrenching victim impact statement. "My sister was our rock. She was Justin's coach, Jada's storyteller. You didn't just kill her, you broke our family." The courtroom was heavy with emotion, with Jaden, now 14, clutching his aunt's hand. The judge noted the devastating impact on Latrice's children, particularly Jada, who witnessed a shooting at just 4 years old. Yet, some in the community felt the sentence was too lenient. A local activist group, Detroit Voices for Change, organized a rally outside the courthouse, holding signs that read, "25 years is enough." Online, posts echoed this sentiment, with one user writing, "He could be out by 2043. How is that justice for a mother too?" What do you think? Does Maxwell's sentence fit the crime? Drop your thoughts below. One unresolved question haunts this case: the long-term impact on Justin and Jada. Court records indicate they're now living with Tamika, who's taken on guardianship. A social worker's report, submitted during sentencing, described Amara as withdrawn, struggling to process what she saw. Justin, meanwhile, has shown signs of anger, getting into fights at school. A fundraiser started by Latrice's co-workers raised $12,000 for the kids' counseling and education, but money can't replace their mother. Community members have stepped up, with neighbors on Avon Avenue leaving flowers at the house, but the trauma lingers. I keep thinking about Amara's scream, captured on that neighbor's security camera. How do you heal from something like that? If you've ever lost someone to violence, how did you find way forward? Share in the comments. Your stories matter.